I play them for fun and as like a hobby and for good stress relief. So pretty much they're all both mixed in there. So like main top 3 reasons I play them.
Cool.
Oh, okay. So the cool real life benefits I've seen is like it's good when you play games online, because a lot of games go online now, so you have to wear headsets when you play certain games, like Counter-Strike or something. It helps you get in that mentality of, one, how to talk with people, even if you don't know them, like how to just be like that. So when you're on the streets in real life, you can just, if you see somebody needs help, you can actually be more approachable and be like, hey, do you need something? And you're less afraid of that. Also, good teamwork, balancing skills, I've noticed, and reflexes. I don't know why, but when you play video games enough, your reflexes start to get faster, like your reaction time to stuff. It's like, oh, something's falling or someone's falling, you can catch them. I've seen that, and it's weird. But
have you had any experiences yourself?
I have, like when something was falling on somebody, it was like a sword or something we have here. I actually caught it like before it fell on them, and I wasn't even really paying attention. I was looking at the TV, then I noticed it started to fall, and I caught it. They're like, "Wow, I'm so glad you caught that." They were like, "That's fast reflexes," and I was like, "That's probably video games because I don't like practice reflexing every day." Like,
yeah, you don't practice seeing things out of the corner of your eye.
Like practice like, oh, let me just throw some knives in the air and see how fast I can catch them real quick. That'd be kind of funny though.
That would be funny.
Yeah. There's like, so I guess teamwork is good stories because like in video games you always like have things where people like to rage quit, but when it's your friend you tell them, hey, don't quit, we'll just finish this level whether we win or lose. Because you can just sweeten the deal and tell them, oh, you'll get XP or bonus or something. So in real life, I always factor that into people when like we're playing football for like an activity, and one of the guys wanted to quit, and I know it was video games, and I was like, hey, you can't quit, just pretend it's like a video game, and there's something great at the end of this day. And he didn't quit, he kept going, but it is one of those things where I think some stuff in video games you can apply, like, yeah, you can always quit a game, but in life you can never quit. So I think a lot of people try that with video games. They might die and die, but they keep going to get to the end of the game. I think you can always look at real life like that mentality. Like, you might get pushed down, beat down, but you always got to keep the mentality if there's something better at the very end. I just got to keep going. I mean, that's how I look at it. Yeah, those feel like movies when you play them.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Which is interesting because everything I noticed about each one of the top stories you were saying, all those characters are the most heroic characters you could always want to be. In real life, you can't be like Snake, where you're like this dude who's like, oh, I'm a spy, and I like kind of am this dude who's a loner and does what I want, but then I save the world without people realizing what I do. Same with Master Chief. It's like one guy in a war of aliens saving the entire universe. I think that's why people play games, because you wish you could be that person. Like, in your everyday life, you feel like everything you do does not matter, but in the game world, you can be a hero. You can be that one person that everybody at the end of the game is like, thanks for saving us. Even online, if you play a game online like Call of Duty and you are the dude that gets the kill for your team at the final one, everybody in your headset's like, you're the man, you're a hero. Our girl, because there are plenty of girls that play too, so it's one of those things. I think that's what people like about it, and they like with the stories is you get to be that person that you never thought you could be in real life, even though if you pay attention to real life, like I said before, you might be that person without realizing you're becoming that person, which is kind of a cool aspect of it.
That is cool.
And like that movie Pixels, you never know, one day, like my dad used to make a joke when I would play Call of Duty or Halo, he'd be like, you know, one day the military is going to look at that, they're going to look at your high scores, and that's how they're going to recruit you. And I was like, it'd be kind of cool if we got these suits and awesome, but I don't think they're going to do that, Dad.
Yeah.
But I mean, in a way you never know, because I think that's like the plus side and downside to video games is, you know, with something like Call of Duty, it is cool because it does show kids like, oh, these weapons and stuff. And war can be bad, especially with some stories. Like, they will make that very clear. But then sometimes I think it desensitizes a kid to what it would probably really be like to be in the military. Like, I know if I was in the real military and I had to shoot somebody, I probably would throw up, because I'd be like, it's not like a game. Taking a life they don't come back from that. So I think that's the positive. In games, you get to go in this entertaining world, but the negative is sometimes you probably don't realize, especially with younger kids growing up, I think it can desensitize them to be like, oh, if I was to be in this military situation, it'd be like a game. I shoot this person, move on to the next person, and keep going. And it's one of those research studies they've been doing, so I don't know scientifically if they proved anything, but I do see, like, my cousin, like, he can go from playing a video game to watching a very graphic horror movie, and he doesn't flinch because of everything he's seen in the game, and I kind of worry about that sometimes, because I'm like, when I was a kid, if I saw something like that, my stomach would kind of hurt, but nowadays it's interesting. So I wonder if it does desensitize people in a way to ultra violence, because like I said, I play Mortal Kombat, and I'm pretty positive I would never see somebody's spine get ripped out, but if I did, I don't think I'd react like, oh, no, I saw that before plenty of times. It's okay. I think I'd be like, oh, I need to call the cops and get out of this building right now. But yeah, some people, they might see it and they might not know how to react to it. So it's one of those things where I find that interesting. Yeah, because that's the thing. As long as you know where that disconnect is, when you're like, okay, game world's over, I have a wife and kids upstairs, let me go help them out, and then take care of other business, then you're good. But I've met plenty of people that do border that line where they're like, games are their life, to where it can become an actual addiction like any drug or anything else. Where I have a friend who had to shut down, I guess, his World of Warcraft account. I personally have never played it, but he was explaining to me it became like an addiction where he needed to do it every day. And he would get off work, go home, play it until like he had to be back at work again. And it was like, so there's one of those things where you gotta help people understand that there is a world for that, and a world that you need to realize you live in with real people that you care about, real people that love you, people that want to be around you. And I think if you can realize that, video games isn't that big a deal. But for people who don't realize that, it's one of those things where I think maybe we should start doing, like, what is it when you are an alcoholic? When, like, where you kind of gotta go.
An intervention.
Yeah, interventions where we have to sit with somebody and be like, you've been playing way too long. I mean, it's kind of funny to say that about video games, but there are people I personally met where I had to sit with them and be like, so what did you do this week other than that? And they're like, oh, nothing. And you're kind of like, we're going to get you outside the house for a little bit. Because video games, like I said, they're fun. They're good for stress relief and everything. But people really should focus on the most important things in life, which is the people around them. Because games, you can destroy a video game box and then what is it? It's worthless. But a person, you always want them to be there. I mean, that's how I look at it. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I've seen a lot of positive stuff, too, because there's this kid in our ward who doesn't like being very social, but video games is the way to get him to be social.
Okay.
So, like, if you really want to hang out with him, you just say, hey, you want to play, like, Super Smash Brothers or Mario Party or something? And he'll be like, yeah, totally. And then he'll, like, talk to you, and he'll tell you how his weeks are going and stuff while you're playing that game with him. And I think for him, it's because he feels like he doesn't have to interact with you. You're like focused on one thing, so he doesn't realize how much interaction he's doing with you. So it's good. I think for some people too, like I have a friend where he'll talk all the time, but he won't talk about his personal feelings. But if you're sitting and playing a game with him, I don't think he realizes that he's talking about his personal feelings when you're playing it, because he's just so focused on what's going on. So I think for some people, there are some definitely positives to games, because it helps them loosen up. It helps them break out of their shell. And it helps them feel like, you know, for a lot of people I've talked to that play the games, it makes them feel like they're not alone. And like I said earlier, that they can be somebody that's special in the world. So it is a good thing. It makes them feel important, which I like because it gives them that hope that one day people will see how important they are. And I think that's like one of the best things I've seen with video games. But specifically, personally, with people I know, it gets them out of their shell. It gets them to interact with people. Especially, that's one thing I like about Nintendo. They make you have to have friends come over to the house.
Right.
They're not like, you can play online. They're like, you want to play online? We're going to send you through all these motions. So it's easier to invite people over. And I've noticed some of these people with Nintendos that don't come out of their house will invite you over. And they'll be like, bring a couple friends. And then they start to talk more and you get to know them. And you're like, you're a really amazing person. We need to get you out of here more, but until that day, I'm glad you have this because it's helping us to come over and see you. So I think that is definitely a positive part of playing video games for sure.
That's really cool.
Came out was Red Dead Redemption, and it was about like a guy in the West who had to redeem himself because he was like a bad outlaw, but he had a family, and then he wanted to do right by his family. So the game lets you choose how you'll play it because it's the Old West, so you can go around throwing people on train tracks, doing what you want. But I liked the game because when I played it the way I would have probably done it all in real life. Like, yeah, if I made these past mistakes, how do I justify them? So I really did the missions I was supposed to do. Like, the government's like, this is what you need to do. And the whole game I'm thinking about, yeah, this is awesome. I get to, like, you know, do this and get back to my family. So it made me realize, like, what was truly important to me in life wasn't video games, and it wasn't the fact that I was playing this character. It was the fact that I could relate to him because I want to have a family one day, and I would always want to do what's right by them. So it was like the saddest ending I've ever seen to a game, by the way. No spoilers, I won't spoil it if you haven't played it. But,
no, I haven't.
But no, it was one of those things where it taught me a lot about myself. Just to, when a game gives you a choice, and that's one of my biggest arguments with Grand Theft Auto, when people were like, it's just a bad game to be bad. I was like, no, I've played it, and no, it's not something I would play all the time, but when I played it, I played tennis the entire time I was playing the game because they give you a whole bunch of choices of what you can do. And I was like, oh, I get to be this rich guy. I wonder what it's like to be rich. Let me go play tennis and drive a boat. And it's kind of funny because I like the games that give people choices because you get to see your own morality. You get to see, like, what would you do in a game universe compared to like real life? And some people, yeah, it's like, it's a game, I'm gonna do what I want. But then I've met people where, like myself, you'll play it as if you were in that situation. Like, no, I don't want, like in Red Dead Redemption, there were characters that they were like, I was like, I don't want to kill this guy, there's no reason to, and they would give you a choice, and I'd be like, I'm not gonna kill him, I'm just gonna go. And then if they started shooting at you, of course, you like play the game like, okay, I need to survive, let me shoot back. But it was one of those things where I liked the choices of how would I handle this in a real life situation. And I think that's why people like those role-playing video games like Dragon Age and stuff, because I've never really gotten into them, but a big one that I knew a lot of people liked was Mass Effect. And it was the first game that gave you all these options of like, do you want to be good? Do you want to be bad? Do you want to choose this? And like everybody who ever played it, it's so fascinating to see all my friends who did play it, all their different choices they made, because it did affect their moralities, or like people who told me that game really had an effect in their life. And I remember even watching an interview with the one guy who got dumped by his girlfriend, and then the game Infamous, like, which is this game where you're a superhero but you do make good and bad choices. He said if it wasn't for that game, he would have gone to a darker place in his life. And it helped him not have to think about his relationship, but it also helped him realize that you can like go through bad stuff, but you can make good choices. And I think for me, that's what video games have always done. Like my favorite game other than Red Dead Redemption is Sleeping Dogs, and you like play a martial artist undercover cop. And I just thought it was the coolest game ever because I was like, I love martial arts movies, and now I get to be in the movie. And I even wrote the guys a letter who made the game, and they wrote me back. It was pretty cool. I was like, thank you for making one of my dream games come true. And they were like, thank you for buying the game, and you're awesome. And they sent me a picture with an autograph. It was awesome.
Oh, cool.
But it's one of those things where, for me, it just teaches me more about my own morals and values. Like, there are games I played where I'm like, I need to stop playing this because it's making me feel either sick or bad or doesn't make me feel anything good. But then there are games that you play where you're like that Sleeping Dogs martial arts one where you're like, oh, I'm kung fuing around and being a hero and I'm a cop and it's just cool to know that I can make a difference in this game world. And then, like I said, I try to make a difference in the real world too. So I'm like, oh, now let me use what I've learned here and make a difference. Because, like I said before, games are like movies. They're just more interactive where you get to help influence a lot more stuff. But I think like a movie has an effect on people where they can walk out of a theater and be like, I learned a lesson from that. There are plenty of lessons you can learn from a video game where you're like, that was a really good lesson for me to learn morally. Or that was a lesson I learned that I shouldn't play a game like that because it was stupid. But yeah, it's one of those cool features. And I think it's amazing that they're even adding actors into games now, like Kevin Spacey being in the new Call of Duty. Yeah, like when they added Kevin Spacey to the new Call of Duty and they got like the writer from Batman to write the whole script to a war movie, I mean a war video game, it was pretty impressive because that was the main reason I wanted to play it because I like stories and games and just stories in general. And when I played it, I was like, wow, this is really impressive that they have this thing where you're dealing with morals and war and like how it's easy to be like, here's a gun, go kill these people, but how you never see the other side of like, these people lost their family members and then you got to do this mission. And I mean, of course that game's like a Michael Bay movie on steroids though, because every mission they have you doing, you're like, logically that would be on CNN if we saw dudes like in cars and trucks shooting at things exploding on highways. But they have to make it fun and they have to make it a game. And I think that's the biggest thing that I do like about Call of Duty games is they realize, yes, it's war, but let's make it so over the top that people could realize it's like a movie. It's not, this isn't real. Because I think sometimes, like I said, it's the way to help. And I think games try to help not make people desensitized to that stuff by trying to make it very clear that this is a fantasy reality.